My plans are specific. They are going to be matched with, yes, so regarding the question of Almajiri kids and their right to education, my plans are specific. They are going to be matched with a certain amount of budgeting per head. And that is that every child that is out of school today in Nigeria under our government, as soon as we are sworn in, will be allocated 100,000 naira to return them back to school per year until such a time that they graduate. The reason I'm saying this is simple. If you don't send your child to school, you may have to send the child to jail. And in Nigeria, everybody in prison is sucking from the Nigerian treasury 14,000 naira per day as feeding allowance. But we are not willing to spend 100,000 naira on a child to send them back to school per year. And the other thing I want to do is this bifurcation or labeling of children and calling some of them Almajiri kids. Some of them are referred to as pure water sellers or beggars. Those classifications are unnecessary. A child that is not in school is a child deprived of education. It doesn't matter his geolocation, whether you are geopolitically located in the north or south or the southeast or southwest. If you are not in school, I have a problem with your parents. And if I cannot send you to school, you should have a problem with me as the president of the country. Because the truth is that the leaders of Nigeria are not sending their children to Almajiri schools, and they are not asking them to sell pure water. It's only when they want to tell you a lie that they will tell you that they sold pure water when they were growing up. Buhari's children have never been to Almajiri school. Atiku's children have never been to Almajiri school, and these are supposedly religious people. You see, after sending children to school 8 to 2 p.m. every day, feeding them thrice per day, if the parents want to send them to Almajiri school after school, I have no problem with the parents. Or if your parents want to send you to do after hours in a religious institution, but within the period within which you are supposed to be in school, I'm not going to allow any parent, no matter how religiously inclined that parent is, to send their child to any school that is not a conventional school funded by the federal government of Nigeria. Right? If you have a commune, what I mean a commune is a religious commune, we'll bring the school there for you and bring the teachers there for you. And bring police to enforce the education as well, or the army if necessary. Because I reported a lot on Boko Haram insurgency. And if you look at the history of a Shekau, who is one of the most vicious of Boko Haram leaders, you could tell that part of what he's doing is vengeance against society for neglecting him when he was a child. So if the country had shown him love when he was growing up, we would have had less of them. The school environment is not just an academic environment, it's also a recreational environment where children learn to do sports, where they get to learn to love themselves, love society. That's why they call it a school. And when they are done with school, there should be recreational facilities for them too. There should be recreation for them too. Every school in this country should have a park. They should have a basketball, park. It should have a soccer pitch attached to it. It should have toilets. Things that gives you dignity when you are growing up. So I give an example. I live in the US. If my children don't go to school in one day, the school will call me and find out why the kids are not in school. If by the second day, the kids don't go to school, the police will come and arrest me for not letting my children go to school within 48 hours. That must be enforced. That is what this country should be doing. But we cannot do it when we are not investing in education. Or the money that is made for education of our kids are spent on senators who are not coming to work, or they are spent on governors who are not doing anything for ourselves. They are spent on security slush funds. what will befall this country in the future if we don't spend 1.3 trillion naira? That's the exact amount. 1.3 trillion naira is what I'm spending to take all the kids out of school, back into school. That's 100,000 naira per child for 13 million kids.
That's the highest percentage so far.
That will cover uniform. It will cover some kind of feeding while they're there, and it will cover teachers that are going to teach them. We are of course going to hire over 200,000 teachers, and every school will have a nurse or a public health professional that can at least attend to a child before he gets to hospital. You understand? So it will then become a crime for a parent to not let their kids go to school. You'll be prosecuted as if, you know, you are leveling war against the state. That is how we have to do it for us to get it right in this country, for the future to be bright for Nigeria, for Nigeria to produce the kind of children that can lift Nigeria up to that position of prosperity and dignity as a nation as well. You cannot do it by haphazard school feeding systems that are politicized. You can't do it by the way we are doing it now. I ask all the time, for every primary school you need only 6 classrooms, maybe 4 toilets, 2 for teachers, male and female, and 2 for the kids. But we can afford to build a classroom and attach a toilet to it, each classroom. So every classroom will be like a self-contained apartment. It has a classroom, it has a toilet. So if the child wants to go to the toilet, he goes to the toilet, comes back to class right there. Right? How do rich people in Nigeria find money to buy and build houses that have Italian marble? And they cannot build schools with Italian marble. Wicked leaders, that's what they do. And they have hotels. Not only in Nigeria, they have international 5-star hotels in Dubai and other places. But when it's time to build school for kids, we start looking for bricklayers that did training in 1952 to build the schools. So you have leaders who don't love young people. That is why this country became a country that just recently was categorized as a place where you are likely to die before you reach the age of 5. So in the next 10 years, if you continue to have the Buharis and Atiku as your leader, you may not even have kids who will live long enough to go to Almajiri schools, because they will die before they before they get to 5 years old. If you add that to the fact that we are now the poverty capital of the world, everybody is doomed. So you become the survivor of the fittest for the kids, and when they become fit, what do you think they'll be doing? They'll go and engage in violent crimes. You know, if somebody goes through Almajiri school and they know that society is neglecting them, and their teacher is also a Boko Haram adherent, I'm not saying Almajiri teachers are, or who cares? Or even Boko Haram probably has its own Almajiri schools right now that we are not even detecting. We've had this problem in places like Pakistan and Afghanistan, and the countries had to pay for them 20 years later. In fact, not the countries, but the whole world had to pay for it. So when you are sending kids to school, when you are preparing a bright future for kids, you are not doing anybody a favor. In fact, you are doing yourself a favor, because then when you retire, you can live in peace. That's the truth. And that's why we have no apologies when we are allocating figures. We'd rather allocate these monies to the development and progress of our children than to allocate it to the gluttonous, conduct of our leaders. Wicked leaders in this country who have made it impossible for children to grow up in good health. And we are in this situation because they rather embezzle monies that are meant for development than invest in the future of children. When I say that they are spending 14,000 naira on every prisoner per day, I'm not the one who made it. It was the Minister of Interior who said it, right? So that means an average prisoner is more than, in 1 day, in 2 days, a Nigerian prisoner eats his minimum wage of a worker, more than the minimum wage. So what if we had done something to make their lives productive, to provide them jobs, probably they won't be in prison. There are countries, I'm not saying that if you go to school, you won't go to prison. Because there are a lot of them who are educated who have to end up in prison. There's no question about it. With the way they run the school, the doctor who is running the Senate ought to be in prison. Yes. The one who is running as PDP presidential candidate now, Atiku, ought to be in prison. That's what everybody was saying about Obi when he was talking about China. If Nigeria were to be China, there's nobody today from the presidential candidate of the PDP to their driver will probably have been executed and their families made to pay for the bullets. That's how China does its thing. I don't believe in, capital punishment. I'm just saying that if you want to have a Chinese economy and you love it so much that you mount it at every opportunity, you should also consider the Chinese consequences for corruption. That's the truth. So that's my position on education. There's no candidate out there who has marshaled anything dynamic about what they want to do about education. And not to take it, just to take it beyond just sending kids to primary school and kindergarten. The same thing will be extended to secondary schools. That the standard of our secondary school should be the same as the standard of our unity schools as it used to be. Because when Nigeria wants to discriminate, they create special intervention schools for their children. That's the meaning of unity schools. Unity school is discrimination against people in education. You are saying that certain kids who reportedly are supposed to be gifted will pass and go to unity schools. But the question I ask myself is, how can you be gifted if you grew up in Nigeria? If you grew up in Kano as a Almajiri child, how can you be gifted enough to go to unity school? You understand? So everybody must be treated equally, given the same opportunity, so that they can be gifted equally in the future. So I will abolish unity schools. I'm very serious about it. And make every secondary school in this country become like unity schools as they are today. So as soon as you are getting out of the primary schools, you are going into a secondary school that is like a unity school. That way, Nigeria will be preparing itself for a future that is competitive internationally. The way we are now, they don't even send their children to unity schools anymore. That was why our friend Obiose quickly wanted to sell unity schools when she was Minister of Education. Because the elites were itching to take over the schools and convert them to private schools for, of course, better opportunities for their children. Completely discriminatory. Every child in this country who wants to go to school should go to an equivalent of unity schools. Except you want to say that the schools that are not unity schools are disunity schools. And I'm serious.
Excellent.
Yes, any child that sees a guy progressing in a unity school and that is going to a secondary school that is not like that, you are already planting in their hearts disunity. They will already have hatred and acrimony against the ones that are succeeding. That's how kids are. You have a question?
Yes, Your Excellency. The concept of unity school is not actually to discriminate, but it's to foster unity among Nigerians. Where a child from Bayelsa will go to the north to go and school, where a child from Sokoto will go to Warri. That is the concept of unity school.
I understand that.
So if you are to make every other school a unity school, that would be fantastic. But if it should take
they hide these concepts under a hidden agenda. It's not, at the end of the day, the child in the regular child in Bayelsa get into the unity schools is still who you know, right?
No, it actually
so what will create unity is this. Let me explain it to you.
All right.
Is to have unity schools all over the country, owned by the federal government, competing. And a parent that wants to go to the best unity school will just move to Bayelsa. That's what I did. That's what we do in the US. When we want to buy a house in the US, you go and look at towns that have good schools, and you move there. That is it. That's what we foster real unity. It's for people to be able to move from one place to the other because of the education of their children. Not to send their child to one unity school because they know the Minister of Education. the truth is that if the unity schools are fostering unity in Nigeria, why is Nigeria so divided today? Ask yourself.
Well,
Who graduated from a unity school that is still in Nigeria today, uniting Nigeria? Probably some of you. But you are not working for the unity of Nigeria, because if it is so, well, if you are working for the unity of Nigeria,
yeah.
all of you will be in my campaign. Yeah, you guys are. He hasn't joined yet. What will bring unity to Nigeria is prosperity and equality of opportunity for every child that is born in this country. And I'm serious about it. I know what I'm saying. You know, I know what the elites mean when they create their bogus schools and programs. You know, ultimately it is to benefit them, not to benefit the ordinary people. I didn't go to a unity school. You know, I attended a community high school. And I believe in the unity of this country more than probably people who went to unity school. That's why I'm running for president today. I'm a product of a derelict community public school in Ondo State. We built our own school by ourselves. The federal government didn't build it for us. We are the ones who molded the blocks, you know, carried, you know, cement on our heads and built our school, and then attended the school ourselves. A lot of people are like that. So what I'm saying is that you don't need unity schools to unite Nigerians. You need justice, social justice, to unite Nigerians. It's as simple as that. And the moment we try it, and this is the time to try the other part, because we have tried the unity schools. Look at what it left us. Now we have to try justice, social, economic, and political justice. And then you see what is unity. Right?
All right. Thank you so much, Your Excellency.
Yes.
This has been very good one.
This is another one. So.
Yeah, yes.
You said you had a question about corruption.
Yes, Your Excellency. How will you deal with the issue of corruption? Because what we have observed is that monies that are meant that could have gone into education of children, you know, is probably what is being diverted into private account, and that's why today
it's not probably, you know, look at the UBE fund, for example. It's an intervention fund for primary universal basic education is what they call it, right? It's a fund that is in trillions at the point ahead. But they did it in such a way that state governors are supposed to provide counterpart funding for it so that they can access the fund. The money is sitting down at the Central Bank of Nigeria. But they are not, the state governors are not interested because their children don't go to primary schools that are central, that are the focus of the UBE funding. So they don't provide a counterpart funding. What I would do is to go to the Central Bank of Nigeria and take that money out. You'll be surprised that money is more than ₦1 trillion right now, accumulated. Take it from politicians who are using it as slush funds. Invest it in what I'm talking about to you. And the second thing about corruption is that, and I mentioned it before, we have to completely make sure that our processes, the way we process money in Nigeria changes completely. This idea of physically moving cash around, using old methods of accounting, you know, preparing ledgers, same we used to do as in 1959, 1960 when we had independence, has to end. I am still surprised that in this country I've been to places, universities, where to use a hall, somebody had to count the money with a bucket of water beside him and then hand wrote a receipt for us. I said, this is a university. By now, nobody should be touching money. The money should go into a central account. You should only be able to log in and find out how much is there. The spending of the money should be done that way. Contracting should be done the same way, you know. Blockchain technology is also there to help with a lot of ways that we are carrying out transactions now. You know, including how to figure out how many workers we have in the country who are not ghost workers, right? So, but most importantly, consequences. There must be consequences for corruption in Nigeria. Yesterday, I think it was Malaysia, or was it Singapore, that is going to prosecute one of these big international companies. I think it's a good. What's the company? One of these big financial.
Goldman Sachs.
Goldman Sachs. They have been prosecuted for engaging in corruption. In Nigeria, we don't even prosecute our bankers for engaging in corruption. Yesterday, I was talking about it. There's a big merger between Diamond Bank now and Access Bank. The managing director of Access Bank was one of the people cited for the Desiani money laundering scandal. But because it's close to the upper of Lagos and close to Tinubu, they are not prosecuting him. Fidelity Bank managing director was also involved. But because that one is close to Peter Obi, they have arraigned him for corruption and money laundering. But the Access Bank guys have been rewarded with another bank. But what is most important is that the banks that are crashing, nobody is prosecuting the leaders of those banks, the managers of those banks, for killing the banks. So you just do a merger and they walk away with huge allowances and payoffs. And everybody is happy. Nigeria is screwed at the end of the day. That is because we don't have consequences. And we mentioned that with regards to China the other time. When you say, when people start shouting China, they should just be careful what they are wishing for. You understand? Because if they ask what China do to corrupt people, in fact, there's no country in the world that is making it today that doesn't have a zero tolerance for corruption, including the United States. You heard about Halliburton. Every corruption that is perpetrated by any company in the US would lead to prosecution and jailing of people. And then the organizations themselves are made to pay hefty fines. That's what Goldman Sachs is, I think Malaysia is asking Goldman Sachs to pay over 2.something billion for bribery of their former prime minister. Nigeria, we are not asking anybody to pay anything. We are not even jailing anybody.
They are running for president.
They are running for president. The people who stole Nigeria dry, they are running for president. They are in the Senate. They are in the House of Rep. They are governors. So you keep rewarding them with more and more bigger positions and more promotion. And you expect the country to make progress. You are deceiving yourselves, ladies and gentlemen. I know people keep warning me not to say what I will do. But I'm sorry. If I don't tell you what I will do, if I start doing it, then you say I didn't tell you I will do it. I want people who understand what I'm capable of doing to vote for me based on my capability. I'm not supposed to hide behind a finger. Get elected and you say I didn't say, he didn't say he would do it. If you cannot vote for my character and my commitment and my promises now, you are not likely to support it when I become president. You'll be calling me a chameleon. I don't want to be a chameleon. I want to be somebody whose words will become his bond as soon as I get into office. And whether they like it or not, we are winning the election next year. And they know it already. That's why they are running away from debates. Because we would have been able to lay some of these issues down at the debate. We would have been able to meet face to face with some of the guys who destroyed Nigeria at the debate, who are running for presidency.
Correct.
And people in the audience too, who would have followed them there, would have been able to hear the story of what Fela called Pansa. It would have been an amazing debate, a historical debate. Now we are fighting for it. Tomorrow we are filing a lawsuit to compel the people organizing the debate to include us. That's very, very important. It's very, very important for us, and it's something that must be done. Because it's through the debate that Nigerians can make a decision. But I'm not saying that without a debate they won't make a decision. But it helps if a lot more Nigerians can decide who they want to stay with. Whether they want to continue to stay with people who have failed them all over these years,
200
the
stations.
criminals who put them in penury and poverty and is a state of hopelessness, or they want people with fresh ideas, people who have demonstrated integrity, people who have demonstrated commitment, and people who have focus to ensure that the country is a changed country.
One more word, sir.
We have to leave because we have a 6 o'clock.
Yes, sir. So just one more word that we have 13.2 million children out of school now. Within your first 4 years, how many? What is the rate of reduction will you see in that?
I just told you, as soon as I come in, I know the amount we are spending is 100,000. Every child that's on the street will be withdrawn from the streets.
All right.
If I see you on the street, it must be that you are accompanying your father or mother to church, or to go cut your hair, or the mosque, or even a traditional place, because I won't discriminate against anybody based on their religion. Everybody must worship whatever they worship, and also worship the head.
Nigeria, they use computer. The leaders of Nigeria, they use radio where they turn the knob.